In the meantime, Bradley Russelberg, our throws coach at BW, joins us here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm sure this is kind of a whirlwind time of year for you guys because, you know, if there's a sport that just never seems to have an off season, it's probably track and field.
Absolutely.
You know, you guys are full throttle gearing up for the winter season, and gosh, what is there, 2 days between, you know, what feels like winter NCAA championships to, hey guys, it's time to really turn our attention toward the spring here. Maybe before we look forward to the spring and talk about the winter, let's learn a little bit more about you and your journey and why BW is a good fit for your career.
Well, let's start with, I guess, kind of how I ended up in track and field. You know, originally in the high school times, you know, you're usually, especially as a thrower, you're going to be doing multiple sports. And I think football was the big thing at the school that I went to in high school, and that kind of just carried us over. And then my D-line coach at the time, he was our throws coach at the same time, so I wanted to go ahead and hang out with him a little bit more, get used to the, you know, lifting side of things, and then that's kind of how I got interested in strength and conditioning and all of that as well. And then from there, I just really found a love for track and field. It's just something so interesting about the idea that, you know, for a lot of sports, you're looking to kind of find people at their worst, but in track and field, you only want to compete against people at their best, so you can say you beat them at their best. It's a really, really interesting kind of dynamic, but it brings a lot of positivity with the sport as well. You know,
Sure.
It doesn't matter if you're against a rival school or what. You want to see them at their best, and you want to see them succeed so that you can beat them when they're at that level. So
It's fantastic. You've obviously been around this conference for a long time, right? I mean, you know the OAC through and through. You've been in it as a competitor. You're coaching in it. Maybe even just broader than BW. Why is this a special league to you?
You know, when I was going through the recruiting process at that time, you know, there were a lot of different areas you could go around, you know, the scholarship, non-scholarship, all of that kind of stuff. And what kind of landed me was just seeing how consistent we were in this conference at the top level, right? If you're going to be at the top of the conference, you're probably close to the top in the country, you know, stuff like that. And then being able to compete at that level consistently every single year, because that means that being at that kind of top 3 level means that you mean something to the entire nation. And I think when you carry that into just the everyday, it doesn't matter where you kind of fall, you're always being against those kinds of people. You can find a national champ, national qualifier, kind of anywhere. So just being against kind of the top of the nation really, I think, kind of stands for itself there.
I had a chance to visit with lots of different coaches, and I love to ask this question just to kind of get different perspectives on chemistry between coaching staffs. Right, you've got a coaching staff here that I would argue has achieved an awful lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, geez, Joe and Jordan in particular, both cross country and track. This is one of the better programs across the OAC. And to your point, the OAC is pretty consistently putting out talent, whether it's in track or in field, that ranks right up there in the top of the country. I'm just curious how much, when you went through your process of saying, hey, okay, where's the next step for me, how much of that decision for you was about cohesion with your colleagues on a coaching staff?
That's a great question. You know, the biggest thing when it comes to being within a coaching staff is communication and making sure that that's a number one. I've been in different staffs, whether it be, you know, internships or full-time staffs or part-time GA-ships, where you're going back and forth between where you're getting your information from and finding people that either say yes to you all the time or, you know, just assume that you know what you're talking about and they just don't go through the motions with you, or finding people that maybe you don't agree with all of the time, but you learn more from that experience than anything else. And I think both Joe and Jordan both do a really good job of communicating with me and getting us to a different perspective every once in a while, right? If I come from my background, something a little different, and they have their own perspective, we can come down to a really good conclusion that I think molds very well for the situation at hand, given whatever it is, you know, strength and conditioning, or, you know, just talking about general training stuff, or, you know, recruiting stuff, anything like that.
Give us an idea of how in the winter season, you know, how you went about setting goals for all your athletes, kind of figuring out, hey, which of these are a reach, which of these might be maybe more attainable, right?
Yeah.
Figure out ways to feel like you're seeing progress, and then, hey, how far can we push this thing? Knowing that you got the deadline of conference championships, national championships, and then going right into the springtime.
Yeah, there's with that, there's a lot of the little hurdles you have to first get. Especially with a group so young that I have right now on the throws side. The biggest thing that we can make sure that they're getting is seeing development day in and day out. Whether it be a further mark or whether it's just the one thing that we focused on with their technique within practices and stuff like that, making sure that they're seeing some sort of improvement like that. That's just the little victories right there. Obviously, we try to peak everything towards one specific time period, like you're talking about, whether it be the national championships or any of the conference championships, all Ohio, those kinds of championship meets. It does matter, but at the same time, I think the biggest thing to make sure that we're focusing on is just the little victories first, making sure that we're starting from where they're kind of buying into what we're doing first, and just making sure that we keep moving in that right direction.
And are you happy with the way the winter went?
I would say so far, yeah. There's always more that you want to achieve, right?
Sure.
You're happy but never satisfied. Coming from kind of coming in, I want to say on the men's side, I had a freshman that was looking Mason Kiesel. He was coming in closer to top 10, top 15, and he left shot put record in top 3. It was awesome to see. It was awesome to be a part of, and obviously, Abby's had a lot of success in the shot put as well. Seeing her kind of climb the ladder there to that number 1 spot finally, and really breaking through to that 13-meter threshold and getting close to that top 20 mark for the national marks is awesome. It's a lot to build on to the next part of the year, but it's also kind of a daunting task moving forward because now our standards only get raised. They never lower.
I think BW is a great place for 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that are thinking about college track, because when you're competing in track and field, there is certainly a team component to it, right?
Absolutely.
But there's also a pretty individualized nature to your event. And there is such a proud tradition of track and field at BW. And everybody kind of, goes back to Harrison Dillard and sort of how that is kind of the thing that you're hanging your hat on as a program. But to me, it's so much more than that. And, culminating in a national championship in the indoor season, several years ago now, but not really the too distant past. I get the impression that, especially in the Ohio High School Athletic Association, the track community takes Baldwin-Wallace pretty seriously when it comes to, hey, I think I might want to go compete there.
Absolutely.
What are your impressions when you talk to recruits what are your impressions of their impressions of the program, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it's I've been at a couple different places now, and I can tell you right now that the biggest thing is that they first off, they recognize the school name, especially for a lot of smaller schools. That's sometimes a hard thing to get. But not only that, but they know the name because of just kind of the legacy that we've created here. Not only just as a school and as a program, but just even specifically on the throw side, it's something where they know that they're coming into something really, really special. For me, that means that I've got some pretty big shoes to fill. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think legacy kind of carries through, and we're doing pretty well. So we're going to keep continuing in the right direction there.
That's fun. Yellow Jacket schedule here moving forward. Starting this weekend, they'll be at Oberlin on Saturday morning. A chance to compete down in Central Ohio at Ohio Wesleyan. The following week, Saturday the 9th. The next weekend will be the All-Tiffin Track Carnival, Friday and Saturday, hosted at Heidelberg, where you certainly spent quite a bit of time. The following weekend, the Jackets will host the 52nd Sparky Adams Invitational. That'll be on Saturday, April 23rd. And that is basically 2 weeks before the Yellow Jackets get a chance to host the OAC Outdoors this year, and a chance to go up and compete at Hillsdale and Michigan in between, and then the NCAA outdoor meet after the Harrison Dillard Twilight. The NCAAs are here in Northeast Ohio over at Spire. It's certainly projecting to be a fun spring.
Absolutely.
Why don't you kind of run through your roster here and maybe start on the guy side of just some of the athletes that I think Yellow Jacket fans might find entertaining to watch.
Absolutely. Like I talked about earlier, we've got on the men's side to start, somebody who just kind of really blew up onto the scene a little bit from their freshman year, coming in with a state qualifier, doing all of that kind of stuff. So they already had kind of their own standards set, especially as a freshman. But coming in as a freshman record holder in the shot put already, Mason Kiesel, he's doing a great job. Coming from a powerlifting background and kind of being a football guy too, he kind of really fits my kind of my vibe as well.
Love that.
I think John Haberman, he's just been developing like crazy. He's I think he's a junior now on the team. Just a really strong guy who's really bought into kind of the new technique stuff that we've been building, and he's just been really blowing up there. Obviously, senior Jake Mantle, he's been doing great coming from football and just kind of really kind of developing himself into that regard. Really had a stellar meet just this past week at Carnegie Mellon University, and I'm really excited to see how he finishes off his career there. There's just so many of them at this point. There's a lot to talk about, but I think I'll just keep it with those three for now. On the women's side, Abby is always a great one to watch in the shot put. She's such a dominant force. But also at the same time, I think new freshman here, Beth Schultz. She's come in and she's doing a lot of really, really cool stuff now. I think she could be one of the top people to look at, especially coming into this outdoor season, going into the next indoor season. I would hang my hat on that one for sure. And also Emily Torres. I think she's a Berea Mid-Park girl, so she's going to be a hometown hero for sure. And I think we're going to see a lot of cool things coming into the conference season from there.
Love that. How about the way that maybe the guys and girls that you coach directly, trying to get an idea for the support for the team in general. Had a couple of young ladies compete at the national meet in the 1 mile.
Absolutely.
And maybe how your group is able to really back and support, the distance runners or the sprinters, right?
Yeah.
In the same way that you hope they are going to turn around and support you guys.
Yeah, the biggest thing with us is, we get done at a certain time, and then from there, it's all we're doing. And every once in a while, for a lot of meets, you're not competing in every single event, so you're going to have some downtime between events, and you can go right over. And kind of the best part about being a part of Baldwin Wallace and the Yellow Jackets now, I've seen it in the past from the other side, is how rowdy we get for our teammates no matter what's going on. And it's not anything like you'll ever experience until you see it for yourself at those meets. But it really does just create such a positive environment, and I really hang my hat on that. I make sure that our kids know that I want them to be loud, and I want them to be proud about being a Yellow Jacket.
Really cool.
Absolutely.
Really cool. Well, we wish you a ton of luck and good fortune here this spring. It's especially fun having the facility that you guys have, a great indoor facility to try to be at your best for the indoor season. Not everybody has that, and then certainly, a historic, terrific outdoor track, and you're going to use it a couple of times this spring in competition beyond just the practice field, and hoping that it's a short trip with a lot of jackets on the bus over to Spire coming up here in a few weeks. But it's great to meet you, and I hope it's a really fun spring for you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
All right,
Appreciate
Bradley
it.
Russelberg, the new throws coach here at Baldwin Wallace.